together, then one of you going to talk if you want only. Okay, Master Jam, here you are.
Thank you very much, Özcan. Well, the topic is fantastic.
Yes,
very exciting.
میخوایم انگلیسی صحبت کنیم چون بیشتر که فارسی هست. اینجا هم که همه فارسی هست.
I know, but Anjuman always speak English just in case.
چرا؟
Because sometimes I don't know any guests.
Do we have a non-Iranian guest?
Non-Iranian, please raise your hand.
Do we have anyone that can't fully understand Farsi?
Raise your hand, please.
Yes. 3 people. 4 people.
We should have translator people for those guys to translate. We need to speak Farsi. It's our language. Anyway. Yes.
It's a beautiful language. We can do both. We could do English and Farsi, but it'll take time. So let's start with the topic, which is the $3 trillion opportunity. I mean, I think we're all clear how wonderful opportunity there is in Iran. And I do remember that in 2016, McKinsey published a report on $1 trillion opportunity. Why did you choose to make 3 billion? How does the 3 billion, 3 trillion, I beg your pardon, opportunity add up?
Before we start, maybe a quick thanks to the team at Anjumman and also all of you guys that put your time to come together, because us as people that are under pressure, we are stronger when we are together. And togetherness starts by coming under the same roof, spending few hours next to each other, understanding each other, learning from each other, but ultimately helping each other. I think that's one topic. Second topic is, I had a talk 2-3 hours earlier in Sharif University, a few hundred people, and I got censored twice. So hopefully.
We can't hear you, so if you can use the mic, please.
I was loud enough, that's why I didn't.
Is it better? Awesome. Okay. So I had a talk at Sharif for a few hundred people, and they censored me twice. Let's see how it goes tonight. Going back.
No censor in Anjumman.
No censor. Okay.
Now we're very free, aren't we?
Sounds good. I have the permission. I think it is a very boring life if you don't have big goals, because our goals, they have to be exciting. And although 3 trillion might sound like a big number to so many people, it's actually not a big number for the potentials that we have as Iranians, we have as a country with all the resources, and most importantly, all the young people we have. We are a country of age 34. I think our median age is about 34. And 34 is basically when you're about to become prophet. You get there at age 40. So it is the peak of learning, peak of energy. So that's a number that I thought it's big, exciting, it's not crazy, impossible, and I can do the math for you guys different ways how we can get to 3 trillion economy. And compared to where we are, which is like, at least it was like 400 something billion last year, I actually don't know what would be the number this year, probably less. It is 10x growth. And doing 10x growth in anything is just exciting. This is why most companies like Huma, they're around, because they're doing a 10x growth every now and then. It's a totally possible number to achieve. It's going to be hard. It requires a lot of tough kind of decisions, collaborations, and more importantly, big changes in the country so that we can achieve it. And I also think the 3 trillion could be an inspiration for all the neighboring countries, because Iran is not just a country. Iran is a culture. And that culture, you have it in a couple of countries around us, Afghanistan, Tajikistan, and so on. We speak the same language. Even Pakistan, their national anthem is actually Farsi. Pakistani people don't understand their national anthem. Iranians, they understand national anthem of Pakistan. And that's a longer discussions about, you know, how Pakistan became Pakistan. But when you think about all these countries somehow can get united. And all of them are relatively resourceful, relatively young. And then you can start thinking and projecting an economy that is 10 trillion for the kind of the collective few countries that I mentioned. And then that becomes a powerhouse next to China, another economy that is about 10, next to US, which is another economy that right now is about 30 trillion, next to Europe, which is like 15 or something like that. And then if you become that, then we can change the trajectory of the history for future generations. And I think that is our responsibility as people that we live, we breathe, we've been lucky to be educated, especially you guys in this room, especially the students in anywhere in the world, Iranians, the young people for sure, and we can do it. And if we can do it, and if it is possible, why not? Why not?
Absolutely, why not? It hasn't happened. What stopped it happening so far?
It's more than just the government. I think government, they have played a big role because when you look at the beginning of governments, you know, if you're living in a village, let's say few of us, we go to an island, 6 of us. We don't need government because, you know, we collaborate together, teamwork is important, someone does fishing, someone does, you know, building a house, someone looks after the kids, and slowly the community grows. But then at some point, orders starts shaking. At some point, the trust starts being a little bit blurry. And this is where government's role is to make sure that no crime happens, no injustice happens. And that's why inherently we have governments to just make sure that bad things won't happen. But we are living in a country that the governments are actually stopping the good things to happen. And that's like what I call unproductive government. Now, to give you an example of what that really means in number perspective, Iran oil and gas export has been about between 50 to 150 billion per year, roughly. Some years more. Right now, it is in its lowest ever because of all the sanctions and so on and so forth. Its potentials are actually 250 to 300 billion per year export. Forget the potentials, let's talk about what is the track record for the past 50 years. Forget the 150, forget the 100, forget the 50, and let's just imagine for a second, we put 25 billion of that export, which is pretty much all cash, into S&P 500, the stock market in the US, into German, 100, UK, FTSE 100, whatever. So we invest for 50 years, let's go back 50 years ago. Every year, out of the 100 billion, 50 billion, whatever, we put aside 25 billion, we just invest it as government. We do nothing else. So every year, 25 billion, so you have the compounding of the year before and adds up. Do you know what would be the number of the value of that investment by now? It is $31 trillion, which is equal to half of the whole S&P 500 stock market of the US. Basically, we could have owned half of the stock market of the US. And now, if you look at it from family perspective, per head, that means per Iranian family of 4, let's say average it, $2 million asset under each family's name. $500,000 cash under the name of each person in this room. So So that is a really mathematical and simple way of looking at it and say, you know what? If we had a government that would have done nothing, we would have been all rich, powerful, influential. So now we have a government that is hurting because where is that money? What happened to it? We don't even have, I wish we had some really good thieves that they steal the money and become like, I don't know, I wish we had someone in $100 billion billionaire list from Iran. We don't have it because we're even bad at that. Yes, we have a couple of people, stole a couple of billions, 5 billion, but the amount of wealth, creations and opportunity that was there and is still there. So that shows to us fundamentally, we as a society, no society needs governments except the governments to bring orders and safety, and that's it. Anything else that governments they do in a very mathematical way stops the progression of the country, that is bad. And that is the reality we are living. No one can argue that. These are all facts, all numbers. So one part is the government, for sure. But there is a bigger part to it, because we can argue between us, we are actually, as a society of Iranians, are not the most successful outside of Iran. There is no government there. We are living freely. And that is very much, and these are stuff that people might not like, because people like to think we are amazing and intelligent and smart and successful as Iranians. And of course, if you feel like that, everyone feels a little bit more arrogant and generous about their own achievements. It's a nice feeling. But when you go to the core of it, look at it. Do we have a Nobel Prize winner? No. Thanks to Mariam, we only have one Fields medalist, and she was awesome. She was a teacher of mine, and a very special person, unfortunately passed away, but we just have one Fields medalist, and that's it. This is 100 million people, we are talking. We are talking about 7-8 million people living outside of Iran with a lot of freedom that is equal to population of Israel. Look at the numbers there, look at the numbers in many other countries that are smaller, and look at the numbers in us. Now, that should really encourage us to go deeper and see what's going on, because we are not stupid people. Once upon a time, if you go back 2,000 something years back, we used to control roughly 50% of the world's GDP. Half of the world economy was Persia. And half is not an insignificant number, because as a next one, the largest economy after us, in the history or before us, was only 24%, which was Britain at its highest when there was no, basically, sun setting anywhere, always, sun was up somewhere. So 24% Britain, 50%. So yes, I say from the one side, we fucked up, but from another side, we actually have all the potentials as people. Now, with that background, if you go deeper, this is culture now. And this is a very deep problem that goes histories, generations and dynasties. It's not only this regime, it's not the previous one, it's not the Qajar, it's not, it goes back almost 1,000 years. Almost 1,000 years. This is the 1,000th year of the journey of decline and losing our confidence. And while we lost our confidence about X, Y, Z, which is a deeper discussions, we built up arrogance just to counter that confidence in a fake way. And that became part of our culture as a society, which drives us not to help each other, because when you start becoming empty, and you're trying to keep the bubble, you're very sensitive about helping others. You don't help others because helping others feels not good, feels you may fall behind. You start competing with the next person sitting near you, not with the toughest far from you. And that has led into us as a society not to help each other. And I'm really hoping, and I know at the core of our history, we used to be very collaborative. We actually built the big GDP that we created by collaboration, by building roads, connecting cities, communicating to each other. And if we can get the collaboration, and luckily, by the way, guys, we have a role model, the best role model, Jewish people. They're just wonderful in collaborations with each other. They're just amazing in helping each other. They're just focused on success of each other. And they have gone through the similar journey. You know, they had ups, and then they went down, and then they were suppressed like massively in about 125 years ago. And then that journey started getting worse and worse and worse until 1930s, you know, post World War II, toward the end. And then they really got to this fact that the only people that can help us is just only us. No one else. No one will help us. No one will help you except each other. And accept the people that they care about the future of this great nation. And those people could be foreigners as well. In fact, in Iran, in success of our history in the past 200-300, we are one of the very few countries in the world that our Minister of Finance was American, amongst other things. You rarely find a country that their minister wasn't from its own country, which I'm totally a big believer of having the best people partnering up. Now, so helping each other is killing the arrogance, being supportive, super important. I think that's one point. The other things that we don't have today, we used to have, and we used to have probably the best value system. Because every country, every nation is like a company. You know, you hear a lot, all of you are business people working in somewhere. They talk about the company values, right? Every company with my values are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 1, 2, 2, whatever. We don't have a value system. If someone asks an Iranian, a Persian, what is your value system? We look at each other, most likely. But we used to have these 3 value systems, right? Which is پندارنیک، گفتارنیک، کردارنیک. Yeah, کردارنیک. It starts from, you know, good thinking, good thoughts, good words, good talking, good language, and doing good. And when you go back to this simple value system, if you put ourselves through this filter every morning we wake up, I think we're gonna be just phenomenal people, very quick, very fast. Then you combine that with supporting each other, then we are not one person doing that, we are a group doing that, those 3 things. And then the rest is, are we healthy as human in our mind, which is the sport activity that I talk about a lot. And then are we working hard enough? You combine these things, and I guarantee you, Iran and the region, the whole thing, will become a 10 trillion economy. Everybody rich, everybody healthy, everybody happy, everybody proud. Something that it's lost today. And it is with us. It's not because of anyone else. It is in us, with us, for us, to grab it.
Hard to disagree with any of that, because of course everybody loves that picture. The reality of culture in Iran is that people are influenced by the environment they're in. How do you go towards that culture? Iran has always bounced. Look, you said the history. So the Macedonians come, they become Iranic because the culture wins. The Mongols come, within one generation, they're all speaking Farsi and they take Iranian culture from India to Ottoman. The Arabs, all of that, we won through the cultural bouncing back. But for a culture change to happen, where the better version of ourselves is the driving factor, and we all know Porter's view about culture eats strategy for breakfast, and I think that's what you're saying, that our future success, because the opportunity is there, is the cultural change. How do you get that general cultural change in society? Because that is the challenge. Where does it start?
So this is a complicated one, because if you go to the past of the Iran, we've been manipulated a lot. You know, we used to be Sunnis. The thingy in Egypt, Al-Zahr, yeah. We opened it. It's a center that we opened it as Sunnis. So we used to be Sunni. And then that part used to be Shia. And then the whole thing shifted. We became Shia and then that part became Sunni. Now I give you this little example because it's kind of still recent to show that what is the level of manipulations happening in the region for certain people to control, to keep certain borders and certain fights and divides going on in a very big level. Now, we have a smaller version of that on our daily lives, that being manipulated. So when you have this big pumping of manipulation, it's really hard to pick up the different pieces of the culture. And of course, that should come from the top down. The right culture, the right, agenda, making sure that when you push through the bureaucracy, the history doesn't deviate you from your plan. Just a side note, one of the biggest problem of the UK, it was very interesting. I had the Prime Minister of Albania yesterday in my office, and then the grandson of Sigmund Freud, Matthew Freud, also was there. He's one of the most intelligent people from every aspect and super connected. So they were talking and I was there as well as I was hosting the meeting. And Matthew said something really interesting. I never thought about the problem of the UK. And I go back to Iran in a second. In the UK, for 1,000 years, one kingdom, one method, one technique actually worked until like about 100 years ago. It was one system. And that system was based on being extremely bureaucratic. And that's why UK can't do anything. I think the only person that did move certain things not necessarily in the right direction was Boris Johnson's using COVID as an excuse. But besides that, in the history of United Kingdom, there is this inherent bureaucracy and systems that stops change. Now, we have that, another version of it, in our culture, because we've been declining. Yes, we bounce back, but we decline. We bounce back, but we decline even more, and then more, and more. That is the journey of, the only good bouncing we did was during King Nader, which he was, I think, brilliant, actually. And obviously, they killed him, right? So we are in this environment that everything is being pushed to us, manipulations, geopolitics, internal, external. Now, when you look at it that way, the hope is borderline zero to bring change. But there is one solution for it. And the solution is actually very philosophical, but extremely physical, funny enough. The only way we can go from one word, which is the word of darkness, in my view, to the greatness, is to go back to our own self, individually. And how do you get to your own self? Because we've been manipulated so much. Luckily, the answer is very simple. By doing sport. And it might sound counterintuitive, but when you do sport, when you do extreme sport, you get close to your own self. Because what is your own self? The core of your own self is surviving. That is what drives us. This is why each of you guys are alive. That is as close as you can get to God in a different language. So by doing extreme sport, you start getting closer to layers of yourself that, okay, I'm dying and I'm like pushing it harder and harder and harder. And then when you come out of it, when the sport activity is finished, you're like someone that has been recreated from scratch. And that someone, it's pure because you just came back to life. That someone has no negative thoughts. I guarantee you, when you're running really fast or whatever and your heart rate is 180, you have no negative thoughts. The only thoughts you have is surviving biologically. And that cleans your mind, clear your mind. You hear, go for a run to clear your mind. It's that cleansing that happens biologically with your hormones and a bunch of other things. And if everyone has that kind of mindset, this is a clean sheet to just project the new culture. This is the clean mind that you can rebuild it with the goal of yourself, by the way, at the center of it. I'm actually very selfish. And I actually admire people to be selfish. Because anything and everything starts with us. I need to be the most healthy, I need to be the most successful, because when I have that, I can help others. And then when I help others, others will lift up, and then when they're going up, I go up. And then that cycle compounds, versus the reverse, which is kind of what we're stuck. So it actually goes back to sport, it goes back to having simple values to be reminded, and it goes back to us get together. The fact that Jewish people are super successful and helping each other is not because they are inherently helping each other. They have these structures, including the Shabbat, the dining they do every Friday, 10, 50, 100, whatever people come together. They're not fussy about what they eat. There's a little bread, a bit of water, some butters. That's about it, which anybody can afford. And you come together. This coming together, people start knowing each other, talking. It's a discipline. Discipline is super important. And then, if I see someone that I don't know for 20 times, I'm doomed. Even if I don't want to, I'm doomed to help that person. Because how can you not help the persons that you have seen 20 times, every Shabbat or whatever? Now, why don't we have that? We have actually in our history Seymour, which is another too similar story in terms of what Seymour is all about. Seymour is all about 30 people ultimately surviving and realizing that we should help each other, and there is a water and they drink from it and it feels great, and they go back, kill the demon, and then boom, 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 as Trump says. Yeah? So very simple actually. Nothing complicated.
So, shall we go for some question answer?
Yeah, well, absolutely.
So, I have first question.
That's what we have
actually.
lunch every Friday. Moi's been doing it for years, but it hasn't changed Iran yet. But keep going. Sorry, Kevin.
Yeah, my question is, what is the role of us as an Iranian expat, not in Iran? What can we do to make these things happen for a $3 trillion? What can we do first? I know we should start with the sport, work on self, you already explained. But what else we can do to just go ahead?
So when you look at Iranians outside of Iran, let's say rounded up, we're about 10 million people. I don't have the stats that whether the average salary income is like 50K, 100K, whatever. But I think if someone says average salary is around $100,000, it's not that off, hopefully. Maybe it's half of that, doesn't matter. So suddenly you see that you have a population or society or a little virtual whatever country we can call it, that is $500 million to $1 trillion economy, just by itself, without having any mineral, without having any inter-exchange between which these are all compounding effects on top of your GDP. So suddenly this is a country that it's bigger than Iran from the economy perspective size. So that's already help. Now, by the way guys, change wouldn't come overnight. It didn't happen for Jewish people overnight. It was just a journey and discipline and all the other stuff. But we can progress toward helping each other here, making sure that everyone's in this room is a bit richer, a little bit wiser, a little bit more healthy. And then the next time, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And then suddenly the room here is like 3 times more successful. And then when you're growing, that is beauty of growing, to give you a really funny example. When you have a grass or even in your body, your hairs, you will see that as your hair grows, you have some outliers. Some of the hairs or some of the grasses, they grow a lot faster. And then those outliers bring hope for the rest. So some of you guys will become super successful, more successful, billionaires or whatever, Nobel Prize winners, and then that hope gives a momentum to the engine. And when you get big enough, each of you, what is the global politics? Global politics is influenced by people that they have influence. If you have influence, if you are rich, if you are this, if you are that, decisions are not made by God from another planet. Decisions are made by humans like us. They speak like us, they talk like us, they interact like us. So we just have to be in the room. Because when you're in the room, you can easily, with one conversation, change the trajectory. And that trajectory could be a change for a better country, for your fellow Iranians, Persians, people in the regions, and greater good of the universe, as a matter of fact. So the responsibility for anyone actually that is here is extremely high, because you are here on the back of sacrifice of many people. There was a time, if you go back 250 years ago to the history of Iran, we only have had 25 people out going abroad to study, France, UK, whatever, to learn about technology. When we realized we fucked it up. We don't have any military, we are losing to Russians, left and right. Every war we go to take something, we come back with less than what we had, right? So from that journey of 25 people being outside to a journey that 8 million people are outside, or 10 million or whatever. So you're blessed. I'm lucky, you're lucky, everyone's super lucky. So you have everything that you need to become successful. And if you don't become successful, sorry, you're lazy. Don't come and cry about the situation of your country or your people. It's you. Only cry if you really say, I as Mr. or Mrs. X worked hard 100 hours per week. 100 hours per week. Use my brain to the extent that my brain hurts. Didn't see my friends for 5 years. Didn't see my family for 8 years. Because if you want to fix something, you have to sacrifice somewhere. And if you don't, this cycle is going to get worse and worse with the AI, especially AI. It can converge us to demolition, absolute demolition, which I call it Afghanistan, Yemen, and whatever situation faster. But also at the same time, it's an opportunity to progress us to somewhere much better.
Okay, thank you.
I want to ask a question before. Hands up, anybody here who doesn't want all this to happen in Iran? No, we all want it, right? But you know, the SOAS University did research, talked about apathy, and said that the Iranian community, they were just researching in England, but the last 4 years I spent in Iran, I can vouch for that as well, has huge apathy. Like, yes, I want it, but someone else should trigger it. The Americans should come and help or do this, or somebody else, or the government has to go, or whatever. I don't think it's laziness. I think there is, in any change situation, the few brave people who go and get sacrificed, but for the masses to suddenly change their behavior, change their culture, get their identity back to their core, whatever, that is something that needs a systematic approach. I don't think anybody here is at fault for what's going on. All people in Iran, in fact, they're doing the best they can with what they have. And they have 1,001 times more pressure than people I worked with in Iran than we have here. And even the people here, I don't know anyone here who doesn't work as hard as anybody else in society. But there is some practical solutions for a countrywide change. Because again, if you look at sport, look at the percentage of Olympic medals versus the population that Iran has compared to other countries like countries like India. We have many times more medals than the Indians as per head of population. What are practical things that will affect the country? Yes, everybody here should do more sports, me too. And by the way, any outliers in my head, I cut it off. Right? So that's how I stay smooth and aerodynamic. But let's talk about something practical. What are we going to do here to make this happen? I know, I agree with everything you said, but action.
Okay. Yeah, one comment. India is a very different story. India is a very different story. India is poor, really poor. We are not poor. We weren't poor. And money talks. You can make people better. And Iranians, they have not experienced hunger yet. It's coming. It is coming very fast, like Yemen. You know, when you look at Yemen and Oman, actually it's a deeper conversation, but similar countries, similar GDP, used to be similar export of oil, but one is just like done and the other one is just thriving. So, look, India is like, it's thriving by the way, it's picking up, but these guys, they got fucked really bad.
It's very interesting story. Yeah. So we are going for a couple of questions, then we are going to have a dinner, collaboration, and again back at 9 p.m. again going for more question answers. So let's go for 2-3 questions. So yeah.
One thing I want to
sorry. No. Go ahead.
One thing I want to ask here: why we have to be so negative?
Yeah.
What is the reason? To
I
be
see.
so negative.
Yeah.
We have to be positive. There is no any other way. As much as you say, as much as you give evidence how to progress, just all is positive. This negative attitude, really is a worse poison. Especially we have it today more. How we get rid of that?
It depends what you call negative, right? And I don't know which part you're commenting or generally on society.
Well, I'm talking about the general. You know,
Yeah.
We all know, everybody is complaining about Iran, about this. There is so many excuses, as far as I'm concerned. There's so many excuses to not doing the correct job.
For sure, and on that you're spot on. And the reason for it is the ego. The ego we have, which I talked about at the beginning of it, which is, because of, the decline, and the more you go down, you balloon up your ego. And then when you have an ego and you don't want to touch it, you start, basically pooping on anything and everything else around you to feel good and to lift yourself up. And that is counter to helping each other psychologically and physically and financials in every other sense. I totally agree with you. I also agree with people that, look, the first step to recognize that what we need to do, to accept there are like big problems and not sugarcoat it because someone might get a little bit offended or not. And by recognizing, okay, I have a ship and the ship has a hole, big holes, but this is a good one, a very good one, a one that can become a $3 trillion dollar ship.
Yeah.
I have one more.
Sorry, Mr. Muzaffar, we have many people to ask a question. Shall we do it later? No, let's keep it if you don't mind. So, yeah, you go ahead. Gentleman, yeah.
Sorry, you mentioned about Jewish people as a role model. So what?
For helping each other, that part.
Yeah.
Yes. Not genocide.
Yeah.
Technically, what is common between them is as being Jewish, so religion. So I'm not quite sure how many of us here we take as a, even we believe in God or agnostic.
We speak Farsi. It's
Iranian.
beautiful enough. We have this value of what I talked about, right? Pendarani, guftarani, kerdarani.
So what is a role model between the, let's say, other communities that we can find as a role model, except to match our religion?
There are some. Obviously, religion has been, sorry to all the religion people, but has been overused or abused to control people, unite them, divide them, cut them, whatever. It's a very powerful tool, and that's why it's there. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, it's actually phenomenal, and this is how we have a border. You can argue by the way. The fact that Iran exists today is partially because of the religion. We could have been disappeared as a country. There are so many countries that they don't exist anymore, they cease to exist. But I'm not saying that it's the only thing. And we used to have stuff before religion, before even religion was a thing. If you go back to Egyptians and if you go back to people in South America, I forgot the name of the tribes, they had systems to connect them. And I actually think we have a very beautiful, powerful thing, our language.
Thank you. Ava?
Few things. Firstly, I totally agree with you about the Jewish culture, and I think it's more a cultural thing than anything else, and they do stick together and we do need to learn from that. I think religion, faith and culture are very different things. They go in hand, but they're slightly separate. And what the Jewish nation does is they always back each other up, they always support each other, and they're always by each other's sides, and that's why they're quite a strong nation, even though they're small. I think Iranians or Persians should learn from that, and I totally agree with you. We don't stick together, we don't back each other up. It's a survival of the fittest, and I think that's a shame. And I think that's our biggest downfall, and that's a cultural thing. Nothing to do with religion, nothing to do with the faith. And I think going forward, as someone who's lived in and out of Iran and in foreign countries, in many different opportunities, I think that's one thing that we've lacked. And I think if we do stick together, and I do agree with you, Dan, there is a great opportunity that we will work a lot stronger as one. Another point I wanted to make is about the extreme sports. Not everybody's into extreme sports, and I totally get the high you get from that, the dopamine obviously released from that, and not everybody has the mental capacity to handle extreme sport. However, going into a situation where you're pushed to that boundary where you feel that there's no way out, but you make it out of that, the endorphins that are released from that experience is what gives you that high to feel you can achieve and conquer the world. And that's something that I'm sure all of us have been through at some stage in our lives, and I think that's very important to remind ourselves of. And if you haven't, an extreme sport's a good way to do it. I totally agree with you, Dan. But there may be other ways of doing that, and I totally agree that that opportunity at that point is where, come on, let's do this, and let's have each other while we do it, I think. So I think
it doesn't have to be extreme, by the way, guys. You just need to do sport, and then
yes.
Extreme for me is very different to extreme to someone else.
Yes.
But doing sport, guys, I can tell you, my life was miserable for 10 years because I did not know about sport. This is a crime to us if you don't do it.
Ava is a professional instructor. He knows all about the sport. So one more. Yeah, Mr. Nafisi?
It's very clever of you, Reza, to have this exercise afterwards.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that perhaps we should all focus on, and it's already been said, is teamwork.
Yeah.
Iranians are notoriously poor at teamwork. And let's hope that we can prove everybody wrong after.
Yeah, actually, I just wanted quickly to show everyone that. So, 8 group we have is outlined Dan Wahdat actually in his website as well. Group 1 is talking about saving Iran's water, securing Iran's future. Is also there are some recommended solutions. You can go ahead read that with your group. I guess group red. Group 2 is valuing Iranian talent opportunity for the next generation. I think it's a group orange. Find each other, talk about that. Group 3, healthcare for all, not just for some. And the project title is Accessible Health. Group 4 is where is the people's money? So there is any recommended solution like a technologies or so you can just offer, make one of you guys going to be as a representative talk with us if you want only. Group 5, education must evolve. Group 6, clean air, healthy city, smoke-free Iran. Group 7, women are half of the solution. So, and Group 8, food must be for everyone. So now we are going, I guess we are going to pause here now if you all agree. We are going to have a dinner. Please find the person actually who has the same color in your badge. During the dinner, have a chat, come up with some idea, go through this recommended solution. So if you want, just find one of those 9 people as a representative to talk 1 minute. And then Wahdat, myself, Professor Masood is here to talk about and argue for half an hour at 9, say about 10 past 9. 10 past 9, we will be here, sit down and go through that.
One thing to add, someone asked, what can we do? This is already started in different cities. It's totally decentralized model. Each of you, or some of you can team up, just host every Thursday. It is the last Thursday of every month, a dinner. Everyone that shows up in the dinner chips in, make it a cheap place so it's not financially a barrier for anyone. I love the idea of bread and water. It's just good enough if it's about being together. And just get together. It doesn't matter. You don't need to do anything else. Get together, talk about how you can become more successful in your own life. The most selfish things for yourself, basically. And then you will see, if you maintain that these dinners for years, every month, once a month, I'm not saying Shabbat every Friday, Thursday, I'm not messing around with your parties yet. Then you will see, magic will evolve, helping will grow. It's like a little plant becomes a tree, and the tree becomes a jungle, and jungle becomes hope.
Yeah.
So actually that's what Angelman is doing. That's what exactly the purpose of Angelman, that we gather everyone last Thursday or Wednesday of every month. So I think it's all about just giving the support to each other and just attend this event to build that together, and actually now that you give a direction to have some meaningful conversation when you gather in Anjumman on how to help each other. So.
Exactly.
And in fact, that is exactly the purpose of Anjumman from the beginning.
Yes.
From everybody who's here, who was here 29 years ago, is to create community and to help each other. That's it.
Thank you guys.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
guys.
everybody just on the range. 10 past 9, everybody seated. 10 past 9. Thank you.
Thank you. من شروع با اجازه میخوام برم. اولا که
رأی رو بدیم. نه ما دوباره می‌ریم داریم. دوباره برمیگردیم.